All right, we are live. So what's going up? What's going on, everybody? This is the GoatCast podcast here with CW. What's going on? And I have here my esteemed colleague, Big Nige. How you doing, Big Nige?
Got my first haircut in the new place. I think everything went well. I mean, they did a pretty good job, all things considered. Just got a little alcohol sprayed in my face, so that was new. But all in all, it was a good haircut.
So you're looking fresh for the weekend. Also fresh this week, Nikola Jokic. Well, it's not fresh. It's not new for him. This is his third NBA MVP, the Michael Jordan Trophy, which he's brought home 3 times prior. Could have been 4 times, but last year they decided to go with Embiid. And let's not forget when we did our midseason awards, I remember someone said that Nikola Jokic would be the MVP this season, and I was right. So, I had to pat myself on the back for that one. But oddly enough, once that was announced, I believe it was Wednesday on the Inside the NBA with Ernie Johnson, Shaq, Charles Barkley, Kenny Smith. Shaq had a lot to say about Jokic winning and how he disagreed with it. Kind of, to me, that was kind of disrespectful. I know they're supposed to be analysts and they're going to talk about what's going on, but you don't discredit somebody after something they've accomplished or earned. But I'm going to play some of that. I might skip around, but if you just let me know if you have anything to share while this is playing, I could stop it. So
5 times, and the Kia MVP trophy bears his name and image. Glance at the list of winners through the years, and you see reflected the global reach of the game. It's been awarded since 1956, and in the first 63 years, only 3
skip up a little bit.
Serbia represented. This guy is closest, but you passed up a charity golf tournament today.
I want to just wait till he hears it. The 2024 MVP from the Denver Nuggets, Nikola Jokic.
And we congratulate the Joker, who for the 3rd time is the Kia MVP of the NBA. 26 points a game was number 10 in the league. 12 rebounds was number 4. 9 assists was number 3. Had 25 triple-doubles, second most in the league. 68 double-doubles was second in the league. 31 games of at least 10 assists this year. 23 games with at least 15 rebounds. And Nikola Jokic claims his 3rd.
I'm going to stop real quick, but how can you argue with that? When you break it down like that, but we'll see. We'll hear what they got to say.
VP award. Shaq, your thoughts?
I don't like to rain on people's parade, but I'm not happy with this one. Congratulations to Joker. You are the best big man in the league, but based on everybody's criteria, my criteria, stat stuffer, you guys' criteria, number 1 seed, which team has a better record, I felt Shai Alexander deserved it because I've been number 2 a lot, and I played my ass off number 2. So the fact that he has to start all over next year and try to win it again, I think it was. I know it's going to be hurtful for him. Hopefully he uses this to motivate him to win a championship. But I thought, and again, no disrespect to the Joker, best big man in the league by far. You could have went this way, but I thought Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, one of only, a few players that had 30 points 50 times. Stat stuffer, great season. His team is number 1. Nobody expected him to be number 1. I thought Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was going to win it by far. But congratulations to Joker. I'm happy for him. 3rd time MVP. You really can't be mad at this vote. But the fact that he has to start all over next year and win it over again. Because, again, I felt I was robbed 2 or 3 times. Right, and I played my ass off. Stat stuffer, won championships those years. But again, no disrespect to the Joker. But me personally, I would have gave it to Shai.
You keep throwing stat stuffer out there.
No, because that's my criteria for MVP.
Does Nikola Jokic not stuff the stat sheet?
Yeah, but not like Shai.
Really?
Shea is one of the few players that had 30 points in 50 games,
Yeah,
Ernie.
well,
Like,
but when you're talking about stuff in the stat sheet, look at all the triple doubles for Nikola Jokic and look at his ranks in scoring, rebounding, and assists. I don't think stat stuffing is an argument.
Okay,
here.
but even doing all that, OKC was the number one
They
seed.
had
only by one game.
They had identical records.
Okay.
It was a division record tiebreaker.
Listen,
that was the separating factor.
All this is subjective. And
Yeah, it is.
Well,
and you're
I
certainly
preface it
entitled
by
to.
saying- exactly.
You can make a case for any of those three to make it, in addition to a few other ones.
Actually, I thought you could have made. And I've said it before, and I just said I thought you could have made a case for 5 guys.
Sure, without question.
Anthony Edwards and Jalen Brunson. I thought anybody voted for one of those 5, I would have been like, okay.
Okay, so we're gonna stop it there for right now. So Shaq disagreed with the voters who chose Nikola Jokic. You heard Ernie talk about his stats, multiple triple doubles, almost average a triple double all season. You know, Shea and the OKC Thunder have been a great story. They went from the play-in tournament to the number 1 seed out west in a tough Western Conference. So what are your thoughts on this? Do you agree with Shaq? Was Shea snubbed, or do you think Nikola Jokic deserved his 3rd MVP?
Right. So MVP for me is tricky. They're always moving the goalposts with MVPs. Sometimes it's charity case awards where you're a 5th seed, but you have this heroic story like Russell Westbrook, you know. Or when it was Jokic's first time winning the MVP, I think they were like a 3rd seed or something like that. So it's like, for me personally, I had Shea winning. I thought the narrative fit. I thought, you know, him being, you know, averaging 30 points a game, like Shaq said, 50, 30-point games in the season, which is phenomenal. Like, we're thinking back to like James Harden-esque, maybe a Kobe, maybe MJ, just in terms of sheer scoring responsibility and production. He was also, you know, tied for number 1 in steals, like 150 steals on the season. Him and De'Aaron Fox were tied for steals. So obviously he's active on both ends of the floor. No all-star on his team, and you could make the same argument for Jokic, considering Jamal Murray is not technically an all-star, even though we know he can perform at an all-star level, like he's shown in the Lakers series to a lesser extent. I see where Shaq's coming from, and I see that, like, obviously, like he says, he gave Jokic his respect. You know, best big man in the league by far. You know, averaging, you know, the numbers that they averaged, 26 and like what, freaking 26 and
12, and I believe 9.
26, 12 and 9. So I mean, obviously he's all world, but MVP is special, man. And looking back at this season, you were getting, like, when you think of an MVP, you think of like somebody who just turned their team pretty much upside down. Like, obviously, if we're not talking about back-to-back, you got to do something crazy to be a back-to-back MVP. You know, you got to, some kind of narrative has to push, because it's not just your production, it's also the narrative. And I don't know why that's the case, but it's been like that for a while now. And so I just thought, you know, because I mean, you could also make the argument for Luka, which, you know, that was the top 3 candidates. You know, it was Jokic 1, Shea 2, and I think Luka was 3. And so, and your son, by the way, owes me $20 because he had the Luka winning MVP. He reached out to me and said Luka was going to win. He said he put 20 on it. So I was like, all right.
I wouldn't hold your breath.
But Luka had a great year too, and I mean, obviously, there's not much uproar about him not winning it as much as Shea, because, you know, technically the Thunder were the number 1 seed, even though Denver was tied with them, and they both went 57 and 25. It's just a matter of like matchup, like whatever, you know, they marginally were better, you know, either head-to-head matchups or whatever. But I mean, I'm not mad at it. Like, I prefer Shea, but I mean, if Jokic wins, I'm not going to lose sleep over it, kind of thing. But I want to be very clear with what I'm saying. Shea definitely was the MVP this year. Like, that Thunder team, like, Like, yes, he was doing similar things last season, but not to this level, not with this model of consistency. And the way he plays actually impacts how his team performs. Like, you can see the little twitchy moves that he's doing, his little stop and go move. His teammates are picking up from that. Like Jalen Williams, he's giving people like Chet the confidence to shoot the ball. He's getting in their ears. Even in the last game against the Mavericks, where they lost in game 2, you can see the group huddles, the togetherness, and it starts with Shea, But when you see the Nuggets getting their butt smacked by the Timberwolves, Jokic got his head down. He's kind of lethargic, lackadaisical. And it's like those things matter to me when you're talking about the MVP of the league and obviously the MVP of his team. And for me personally, I had Shea. And it's unfortunate, but he's young and he can definitely win it any other time in these upcoming seasons, assuming he's healthy.
Well, I get that, and I think that the MVP has become, I guess, narrative driven. But why was Giannis? Why didn't nobody have a problem when Giannis went back to back? I mean, Steph too. I mean, Steph was doing crazy things, but his team was good. His team was good and winning. Why? And Rashad McCants. I was trying to get that clip, but my computer acting up. But Rashad McCants brought up a good point, because this is not what you're saying, but you kind of mirrored a lot what Gilbert Arenas said. But they were just saying it goes to the best player on the best team. The best team this year by far is Boston, but Tatum is not even in the conversation, and he's the best player on that team. So why is that? Why do you get to pick and choose, who's the best? Because to me, it should go to the guy that's playing the best. And if you took that guy out of the equation, and yes, if you took Shea off the Thunder, they'd be down there with the Spurs somewhere in the lottery area, most likely. And I think the Thunder are a little better put together. So if Jokic went down, I think they could claw their way into the play-in. But with Shaq talking about stat stuffer, Luka should be the favorite if we're going by stats, because his stats were even crazier than Jokic's, and better than Shea's. So, other than the steals part, so I don't know about that. I just think you got to look at the
fifth seed. He was the 5th seed. He's not no MVP.
Look at what he's averaging. If stats matter,
he's averaging 33.
So why does first in the West matter more than first out East, or having a higher average in stats?
Because because for Boston, for example, we know Tatum is great, but he's not the lead guy on that team. That is a collective unit. That's Jaylen Brown. That's Derek White. We know very well Tatum is great, but he is not an MVP for that team. Like they beat teams by overwhelming them with their talent as a unit. But when do we see Tatum just take the reins and say, I'm head and shoulders above everybody on the floor? We don't see that from him.
He doesn't have, his team is constructed way different than the Thunder.
But that's what I'm saying.
Okay, so I'll give you that point.
Exactly why he wouldn't get, he gets no traction in the MVP. His team is by far the best team in record wise, but Tatum is not an MVP candidate.
But don't you award that?
If you're
the best player on the best team?
But you can make an argument each night. Someone can play better than Tatum on his own team. You can't make that argument about Shea. Like Jalen Williams can play good. Can we say consistently that someone will have a week where they play better than him? Absolutely not. Can you say the same for Luka on the Mavs? Probably not, unless you throw in Kyrie every now and then. But even still, they're the 5th seed, so they're irrelevant. But if we're talking about Jokic and Shea, that's where the argument stops. Anybody else is you're just throwing in. I mean, you could throw in Brunson. Like Brunson has a good shot.
Brunson has done. I mean, if we're just talking about heroics and
I thought you should be third on the list over Luka.
Bringing the team back from obscurity a year ago or so, bringing them into prominence, and Brunson has done the same thing Shea has. He just hasn't done it as he wasn't able to will them to number one because they had the juggernaut Boston Celtics there, but he brought them to number 2 out east, which is respectable.
But look at this though. But look at this. Look, before I let you finish, now when we had that discussion about who's better between East and West, the 2 seed in the East is 50-32. That's the 5th seed in the West.
Okay, well, in my defense, the East had a lot of injuries that plagued them through the second half of the season. The Knicks had a bunch. The Bucks, they just got Doc Rivers.
Yeah.
Other teams, Embiid's been hobbled. So, that's my claim for that. So, but my question to you is, what separates Shea from Jokic? What has he done so much better? Because as you can see, Jokic has stats. He's scoring, he's rebounding, he's assisting. He's the motor, he's the oil of that machine. He's making sure everybody's doing what they need to do. He can take over a game, but he knows that's Jamal Murray's bread and butter. So he steps aside. So he's the ultimate role player and ultimate teammate. So why does that disqualify him from the MVP? And Shea, yes, he's scoring. He's doing all the little things for that team. He's had to put that team on his back and trust some younger guys to step up and hope they do. But if they can't, he's been able to, wheel that team to victories. But if you take him out, you got a decent young team still. You just don't have the scoring. But Jokic, if you take Jokic out, you don't have it. It changes the dynamic of that team because he orchestrates everything. We see when he's out, even doing in these playoffs, they look completely different when he's not on the floor. They can't score. The ball doesn't move like it does when he's out there.
No, that's a generational playmaker.
Yeah,
no.
So you take him out, and that team is completely, I'm not going to say lost, but they're nothing. Aaron Gordon, those guys are not the same without Jokic on the floor. So he's so valuable to them. And if you believe in advanced stats, he's got the highest win share of anybody in the league this year, 17%. That's high. So they win because he's on the floor. It's higher than Shea's. It's higher than Luka's. So take him out, and that's 17 games they're losing. So you take Shea out, I think it's 12 or something. So and he has the highest PR. He's a most efficient player on the court. So how can you not reward him as the MVP, the most valuable player in the NBA? If you're the most efficient, if you help your team win the most, then what more is there to say? What more is there to? You got to create a narrative now for the other person to win over him. You
come on now.
You take out stats and you say, and you go with the narrative. Because if that's the case, Michael Jordan could have won it every year. LeBron could have won it almost every year.
But they don't, right? Okay. Because of voter fatigue.
Okay,
right?
But if it's so glaringly obvious, which it is this year, when you go to those advanced stats, plus minus, he's the highest plus in the league. Like, how do you just not, just ignore that and just go with Shea because he scored a lot and his team's playing well? Because that case, you could give it to Anthony Edwards.
Then, all right, then let me pause you with this thing. What was the expectation for the Denver Nuggets this season?
Another championship.
All right? Championship, right? So that means you're falling in the 1 to 3 seed. You have, they're coming off a championship. They get a little bit lax. They get some of their, they get a pass for the regular season because everybody knows they got to come through the Nuggets to win the chip, or at least to get to the finals, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, what was the expectation for the Thunder? Now, when we had our preseason predictions, did either one of us have the Thunder finishing number 1 in the West?
We sure did not.
No. Right. So when you think of that, but
okay, I'm gonna let you finish.
But when you think of that,
Mm-hmm.
and then you put Shea in, and you put the phenomenal season that he had, and he
Mm-hmm.
took a team that me and you both did not having. Me and you both did not see becoming the number one seed in the Western Conference, a tough Western Conference that we both agree is loaded. How does that make him not the MVP? Like, you can throw me PR and all these advanced stats. Those are the same stats that these bozos be looking at on the DPOY conversation,
I
right?
mean,
The fact that Wemby isn't Defensive Player of the Year is another stain on the.
I agree with that one. Yeah.
And Anthony Davis doesn't finish top 3 when he's got better defensive stats than the man who actually won Defensive Player of the Year. So whatever these people have in terms of voting, I don't want to hear none of it. None of these people don't make no sense. These dudes probably never dribbled a basketball a day in their life. And these are people making decisions that actually cost players money for either not being all NBA, all defense.
I agree.
Even being in the running for some of these awards. So
I mean, I agree that there may be some bias in it. There may be some there's not a fleshed out criteria for their voting. Some of it's voting with your heart, not your head, and that's probably where some of that stems from. But I mean, what all you said is great, and yes, the Thunder had no expectations. They've blown that out the water this year. But even you, in our first round predictions, didn't have the Thunder even getting past the first round. Yeah. So, if you have an MVP level player, you would think he could put that team on his back and get them further.
That doesn't, just because you have an MVP on your team doesn't mean that they can carry by themselves a team with little to no playoff experience.
But they're the number one team, so they're essentially playing the worst team in the West, or the AC team, which is shouldn't be a very good team. I mean,
but even if they're the number one seed with home court advantage, playoff experience matters, right?
Okay, well they were in the play-in last year.
But that's not playoff experience. That's
like a game 7, basically. So you're getting some experience.
A winner take all game. Come on now, like exactly. You can't scheme for a game like that. Like to actually
play that team multiple times over this season, so you can
but you get a one game as a winner take all. That's like March Madness. That's not a playoff setting. You can't.
Yes, you're not going to playoff. It's a game 7 setting where you got to show up.
For one game.
Everything. Yes, you got to show up.
Anything can happen in one game. But when you talk about young guys, right? Mm-hmm. Attention to detail.
You got to play your heart out.
X's and O's and all these things to game plan for one team. That kind of attention to detail doesn't leave you. But if you're saying go play as hard as you can for 48 minutes against one team,
I mean, you got the coach of the year and you got the coach of the year and the potential MVP. So y'all should be able to figure it out. If you got two guys that are ahead of everybody, you got to figure it out for one game. But going back to what you were talking about, the Thunder, we had low expectations, but we don't talk about Denver had a better record this year than they had last year. So it's not like they had the championship hangover or nothing like that. They came and played well and only didn't get first place due to divisional records. So it's not like the Thunder had a better record. They had the same record. Denver just did worse in their division. So that's
how much better was the Thunder's record from this season than last season, though?
A whole lot.
Exactly. That's progress. Improvement.
Okay, that's progress, but
led by their best player, Shea.
Okay, so you just not look at anything Jokic did, just like you said for Tatum. They just have a good team. So you're wrongly judged because of your team and your teammates and the team you're on. So we got to say no. Everything Jokic did, which was above almost everybody in the league, all he did was better as far as passing, scoring. He did that at a great level, an efficient level.
Uh-huh.
So you just overlook that because a player and his team with a great coach, with the coach of the year, they elevated themselves as a team. I mean, he was the leader of the team. He was the main, their go-to guy. But you're going to just totally forget what Jokic did and go with Shea just because of the progression So wouldn't you give him most improved player or something of that nature if that's the case?
No, but think it like this, right? You said that the Nuggets had a better record, like they improved this season, right?
Yes.
But you could argue that you could throw all those stats about Jokic and all the great things he did, but they marginally it all goes to the winning column. They marginally got better in terms of the wins, right? But then you have someone who's having another phenomenal season on a team with no expectations to do anything. No one expecting them to come out there and take the 1 seed. They took the 1 seed, right? And
Denver kind of gave it to them because they lost to the Spurs. But had they not lost that game, they'd have.
Well, if you're the MVP, if you're the MVP, why are you losing to the Spurs? Spurs stink.
Yeah,
but regardless, I'm just saying, like, if you're saying the most valuable player for the season, what improvements did you make from last season to this season in the winning column? You could average 100 points a game, but if you win 5 games, nobody gives a crap.
Okay, well, they won. They were still top. They won a championship, and maybe this was them rewriting history and saying, "Hey, we didn't give it to you last year. We're gonna give it to you this year because it's not like you've fallen off or anything. Your team's still winning. You're technically 1B in the West, in a tough West. So I don't see, how you could just say, because of the Thunder winning. And yes, that was great. Shea's been great. And he could easily, I wouldn't be mad if he would have won it. I thought it was going to be tight. It wasn't as tight as I thought it would be. But
look at this. But look, the Thunder won 40 games last season.
Okay.
They elevated to 57.
Okay.
Right? And that's led by Shea. Like the whole team improved as a whole, and having Chet Holmgren definitely helps. A 7'1", stretch the floor big that can block shots. Like, of course that helps. But when you're saying about improvement, about the season,
but can't you attribute that to the coach, who's now the coach of the year? Can you not say he created a system that worked for what he had, and that's what elevated this team to 17 more wins?
But you could say the same thing about Mike Malone and his coaching for Denver. You could say, well, Jokic is an MVP because of Mike Malone.
They only won marginally more games. So
exactly.
And you look at his win shares, and it's based off of his back that they won those games.
When you have nobody, when you don't have a team and you're 5 deep, yeah, a lot of it's going to come on your shoulders to be the best guy.
So why would you attribute all their success to Shea and not the coach and that staff?
Do you even know the coach's name? We don't even know his name.
I can't pronounce it, but it's McNulty or something like that.
Like, what? Yes, he is he's a good coach. He encourages them players to play
coach
hard.
of the year. So
yes, because he's coaching what they believe is the best team. Like, yes, Boston is better, but nobody gives a crap about Missoula. All right, I'll just keep it in
unfair. That's unfair.
But him and the media don't get along, and when you don't get along with the media, they don't give a crap about you. They're pushing the guy who's positive energy. He's got the young budding stars in the league, Jalen Williams, Chet Holmgren. He's got Shea. He's got the charisma of that team. They're responding well to his coaching. Yes, the coaching does deserve some credit. But what I'm saying, the best player, just like they say about all the great players, they get all the success and they get all the blame, right? And you have to attribute, as their best player, the only all-star on that team. He took that team to the number 1 seed in the Western Conference, improved their record from 40 wins to 57 wins. You don't reward that. I don't know what else he can do to win the MVP. When Jokic,
Jokic don't play as well. That's all he can do.
What?
I say, can just hope that Jokic doesn't play as well as he does on a regular basis.
They won 7 more games than last season. 7.
Okay. Well, that's 7 more games than they won last season. They
7 to 17. What's the argument here? When both players had a phenomenal
numbers, you look at his numbers and these stats.
But he's not a big man.
Numbers don't lie.
But you can't reward Jokic for being a point center and him averaging 26, 12, and 9, and then Shea's averaging 30.
But isn't he a point guard?
He's like a 2. He's not really a point guard.
Well, who's their point guard?
freaking, I don't know, used to be
Giddey?
Josh Giddey.
I thought Giddey was the 2 guard.
But it's like, it's really Shea just, I mean, he can pass the ball, but he's a scorer. Like, he plays the point guard, but he's a scorer. Like, he doesn't get those he'll get some drop off assists, but he doesn't like run the offense. It's like a team. Like, they play through Shea or Jalen Williams at times, but he's not like the main playmaker. Like, he's really a 2 guard playing the 1. He's just a more willing passer, and the team surrounds him complements that play style for him. So he doesn't have to be, I'm gonna pass the ball every possession and get like all these absorbent amount numbers of assists, because they don't need him to do that. They just need him to play his game, and when the going gets rough, take us home. All he has to do.
Okay. Well, I just know I didn't share the same energy last year when Jokic lost to Embiid, and they were the number 1 seed out west, and the Sixers were the 3rd seed or something like that.
But you know good and well is because Embiid had been snubbed for too long. And there's only so many times you can snub a player until the voters finally get one right. Let's be honest here.
I mean, that's opinion, but I mean, I think they're right and wrong from last year. His numbers don't lie. He was phenomenal for the Nuggets, pretty much the best player in the NBA. Yes, you could have given it to Shea. That would have been fine. I wouldn't have cared. But to one of your facts, and we're gonna move on here in a second. But if the Thunder lose, who's getting blamed?
Shea.
No, they're gonna say they were a young team, they weren't ready. If Denver loses, which they probably will, who's getting all the blame?
The front office, and obviously Jokic. But,
yeah, the MVP.
But Jamal Murray is hurt, right? But you can say all these things about Denver, but like, they don't have a bench. We knew they didn't have a bench going into the season. That was one of the main things that I brought up.
And that should boost Jokic more, because all he has to work with is pretty much 4 of the guys. And
but he is one of the best 5-man rotation. Like, he is one of the best 5s in the league. They're big, they're smart, they can shoot. Like, you act like the starting 5 he has isn't like better than 90% of the leagues.
Okay, well, put Chet in that starting lineup. Are they still the same team?
Put Chet in the starting lineup for who? For what?
For Denver.
We'll replace him with Jokic?
Yeah.
No, because they're completely different players.
Okay, so you can't just he's the nucleus of that team. If you take him out, those other 4 and you put somebody else in there are not the same.
That's play style, though. That's not like, I'm saying, like, you put good pieces, very complimentary good pieces to Jokic's play style.
Okay.
And that's why.
Is that not what you're supposed to do?
You are, but I'm saying, like, they don't have a bench.
Okay, so they don't, but they still win.
You don't need a bench for the regular season. You need a bench when it comes for postseason, because you need guys you can count on when your stars are struggling. You got to have a Mike Miller, a Ray Allen, someone who can come in there, provide what you need in the moment, whether it's a corner 3, you bring it, or someone like Draymond, you need like some defense for 20 minutes or something. Just, you need role players to contribute. It's the others that matter. That's what Shaq always be saying. You have your great guys, your stars, your 1-2 punch, but the others, they're gonna have to win you a game or 2 to give the stars a break.
I agree, but the MVP is based off the regular season. So
yeah,
Denver's success, they were very successful in the regular season, as were the Thunder. But in the end, I believe Jokic and his numbers, because if we're going off stats, then Luka should win it.
But they're the 5th seed. You can't give me stats and then you only won. You're the 5th seed in your own conference.
But they were better than they were last year. So they did have that. They didn't even make the playoffs last year. So they're better than they were last year. So, I mean, if we're going by that.
They got Kyrie.
Good stories. I mean, you talked about the narrative with Russell Westbrook. I mean, that
was because that was like a revenge year and KD left. It was a bigger story that KD left than Russell doing. Like, Russell was Mr. Triple-Double. That's what really put him over the top. Could you average a triple-double for the entire season? Nobody's ever done that before. And he's doing it for multiple seasons. He's going to get an MVP.
Oscar Robertson did it, but
for multiple seasons?
I believe so.
Well, I mean, I don't know if he did as much as Russ did, but it made it seem like Russ was a pioneer. I know.
I mean, they leave that out, but that's not here or there. So Shaq is just a hater. I think Shaq always hates on big men. Dwight Howard.
What do you mean he's a hater? What?
He that was thinly veiled as a compliment. Shaq always hates big men because he made it all about his argument was about himself. So that lets you know that
because he has lost some MVPs. He has the right as a former player to say that. As great as he was, he should have won more MVPs.
But he didn't say that about Giannis, who won multiple, and maybe
they're not. I mean,
he didn't say that about Embiid last year. He wasn't upset
because Embiid deserved it.
So Jokic didn't deserve it.
He's saying, in his opinion, he didn't deserve it. That's why he feels so adamant about it.
I mean, Shaq is a known hater of other big men. Is well documented. He's hated on Dwight Howard, who's done nothing to him his whole career. He used to make, I think, JaVale McGee, Kendrick Perkins, they were mainstays on Shaq and the Fool, two bigs.
Because they were hilarious.
Then, he said the stuff about Wemby earlier this year, that Bol
Not a big man.
Then Wemby, so he's a known hater for centers, because he wants everybody to think he's the greatest, which he was close, but not.
Don't you have Shaq in your top 5?
I sure do, but actually he's not the greatest. He's not the top center at my top 5, so he's not the greatest center.
He's barbecuing Kareem. Come on now.
Nah, Kareem skyhooking him to death. But transitioning from Jokic, who is undoubtedly the MVP this year, some non-MVPs, some players that I guess didn't spend their money well when they were in the NBA. We got 18 players that have been busted for fraud.
Yep.
And right now, the one that's getting a lot of attention is Glen Davis, who played for the Boston Celtics, was a part of that 2008 championship team. He is set to serve, 3.5 years in jail. And,
yep.
For fraud. You might explain it better than me. So I'll let you go with that.
Let me pull it back up. But pretty much it was discovered. The NBA did some investigations. It's a $4 million was it healthcare fraud case or whatever. Apparently some former players were pretty much making these claims that they were getting their teeth done, getting teeth work, looking at their reports. Former players teamed up to defraud the supplemental coverage plan by submitting a fraudulent claims to get reimbursed for medical and dental procedures that never happened. So these players would go and they do their day-to-day lives. There's one report where a player was playing basketball in Taiwan when he was supposedly getting a $48,000 worth of root canals and crowns on 8 teeth at Beverly Hills in California. So obviously that wasn't the case, and they cut him a check for that absorbent amount of money, and he was in Taiwan living his best life. I'm not sure exactly when the NBA caught wind of it. I just know the investigations have been going on for a while now, and there was an interview on another YouTuber, DJ Vlad, and Vlad TV, which I'm sure most of you guys have seen that. LeVar Ball interviews, and he interviews a lot of famous people.
Yeah.
And when you watch that interview and you see how Big Baby looks when he's when Vlad's going through and describing, these are kind of what the charges are, and he's going through it, and Big Baby just looks calm and just it's like he already knows he's heard these charges somewhere before, so he's just I'm gonna take it to court. He didn't say that specifically, so I can't repeat what he said, but he's willing to take it. He was willing to take it to court. He was asked by DJ Vlad, have you been in any discussions? Are they trying to get you to take a plea deal? And he's like, no, I haven't even talked to them. I'm lawyered up, right? And maybe that wasn't the best case because taking it to trial and when you could have probably took a plea deal and probably just paid a big fine and maybe some probation or whatever they want to give you, community service.
Yeah.
And that could have been it. But now that you wanted to be stubborn, maybe not listen to what plea deals they were trying to give you to make this not so public, y'all took it to court. And that's what happened. There's some other key names in this story as well. Terrence Williams, who
he's serving 10 years.
Yeah, he's serving 10 years because he's also could be potentially serving another 15 because of an identity theft charge. Ooh. That's a whole separate thing.
Wow.
But yeah, and me and you had discussed like Tony Allen was in the mix, but you said he avoided jail time.
Yeah, he I think because he paid part of his back. He paid most of the $420,000 he illegally obtained before he was charged. So I guess they just they let him go because he at least paid some of that back.
And I know somebody from the New York field out from the FBI pretty much was saying that this healthcare industry loses tens of millions of dollars a year to fraud. And those costs are then passed down to businesses and customers. And that's a fraud we take very seriously. So obviously when question marks are blaring and investigations start happening and they find out that these are multimillionaires trying to cheat the system, they're gonna try to throw the book at them to set an example for these guys who should have money. Like, why are they trying to fraud and scam the people that paid them those exorbitant amount of monies? I just don't get it. I mean, for a couple $100,000, maybe $1 million or $2 million, when these guys have probably made at least $50 million in their career. If not, then that's a low ball. But I know some of these players only spent a couple years in the league, so maybe they didn't get close to 50. Maybe they're closer to like 20 million or 15 million. But shoot, like, what are we talking about here?
Take care of your money. I mean, you can't cheat the system. They're going to find you eventually. If you're taking money, especially big money, somebody's going to find out, and they're going to take everyone down.
The last thing that they brought up was I know Big Baby was on live like I think a day or two ago talking about the only way that they can stop me from eating burgers is putting me in jail. So I'm glad he's very optimistic and he's calm about it. I mean, if someone was telling me I was about to go away for 3.5 years in prison, hey, I don't think I'd be smiling and making funny faces on live talking about burgers. I'd be shook.
I'd be trying to do whatever I could to get a reduced sentence or something, take some kind of deal. But so I guess we won't see Big Baby and no Big 3 anytime soon again. He's gonna have a Big 3.5 years in prison. So
pretty much, yeah.
Good luck for that. And to the other players, they like I said, there were some notable names. Shannon Brown, 2-time Laker champion. I believe who was it?
Jamario Moon, Sebastian Telfair.
Yeah, those are some
Anthony
pretty
Roten. Obviously Tony Allen that we already brought that up, but you said he avoided, but his name is still on it. He's still attached. So any business ventures that any of the players had, now it's like, so we scamming now. Like, nah, we don't want to do business with someone trying to
he lost a big chunk trying to pay that back. So that was money he had to, he had to come out of pocket with. So,
and obviously, like I said, Terrence Williams was the person who led this conspiracy, and the indictment that he submitted was $19,000 in fraudulent claims to the plan in November 2017 for chiropractic care, and those claims led to a $7,672 payout for Williams. So that's free money. That eventually
that's a lot. That's a good chunk of money.
So free. And pretty much what he was doing, he said he then recruited other former NBA players, like some of the ones we just mentioned, and he wanted to defraud the plan and offered to provide fraudulent invoices from a chiropractor and dentist in Southern California in a wellness office in Washington State. Reads further that at least 10 of the former players paid kickbacks totaling about $230,000 to Williams, according to the court papers. and the lawyer who represented Williams in the past declined to comment. So, yeah.
So yeah, they throwing everything at him since he was the ringleader. So,
And he was a bucket on 2K, so that's a shame.
when he was on the Houston Rockets, I believe, before.
He was on I know his most notable, I think he was drafted by the Nets and he played for like the Celtics, Rockets, and Kings.
Yeah, I remember him as a Rocket. So he was a good player. I mean, but I guess he's just not smart off the court because he's in jail now. He's in prison. So
Man.
So yeah, that should be a telling thing for these young guys to. There's no easy money. You can't scheme the system that got you where you're at. So take care of your money. Yeah, take care of your money. So believe that's all we have for tonight. You got anything else?
No, I just know these playoffs are getting real interesting, and it's a shame that New York is hitting that injury bug real soon. But that's a conversation I'll save for the next video because it is getting rough out there in New York.
Yeah, if all I can say is if the Celtics can't make it to the NBA Finals this year because they've got it paved in gold, then you got to blow that whole team up because, I mean, the storyline pretty much has you walking in there with no issues. So Boston better get together. Of course, they got blown out last night. I've got to put some faith in the. If he's a true MVP, he's got to show up tonight because the way Minnesota's been doing these Denver Nuggets is looking pretty sad. So I'm not saying get the brooms out yet, but another night like Game 2, and go ahead and get them brooms out because it's 1, 2, 3 Cancun for
yep 1, 2, 3 Cancun.
And I will say,
LeBron book.
Get
ready for the U.S. Olympics.
He's gonna be over there with LeBron hanging out, but Murray dodged the bullet. Just getting fined because I believe if that was Draymond, he'd have been out probably multiple games. So so he better calm it down going forward. So. Yeah, that's all for me. If you guys enjoyed this, please like and subscribe, share. We're going to try to pump these out as much as we can. So hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and we'll be back sometime next week.
All right, y'all.
All right.